All right.
I'd like to call this meeting together. There's 3 pages for each topic.
Okay, I can distribute those.
Great. I think there's enough for everybody. Because it shows the meeting, the minutes as well.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So, let us review and vote in the minutes for December and January.
Do we have the January minutes?
They should be in there. Everybody get them?
I got January.
Oh, okay. Is there, I've got,
It's on the back. My printer apparently was not happy with that.
that's all right, I've seen them. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of December 3rd, 2018.
Second.
Motion passed.
Well,
All in favor?
All in favor?
I,
Motion passed.
I abstain because I wasn't here.
fair enough. I'll also make a motion to approve the minutes of January 9th, 2000, is the 9th, right?
Right. Correct.
Right, 2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Abstain again.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, Paul, you're in the
All right.
firing line first.
All right. Howdy, fellas. You can pass these around. We don't have enough papers yet, so.
That seems to be the overarching
Paperwork.
thing for tonight. Oh, yes, absolutely. Actually, and there's another, before we get into the bonding, of course, everyone knows our new member, Stan,
Hi.
our second Stan. Stan number 2 as he will be now. And the other point is that Rema is putting in her resignation. She doesn't feel that she can contribute in the way that we need, so we'll probably look for another member or keep going as we are, or we'll figure it
yeah.
out, I guess.
I mean, I've said this here, but there were a handful of people that applied when Bill
Yeah, absolutely.
resigned, so we should be able to just ask the mayor to
Appoint someone.
look at that stack again. It shouldn't necessarily have to be like a big
I mean, she's been to one of the meetings. No.
two. Yeah, so
Yeah, I think the first couple, when her husband got sick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
understandable. Yeah, so.
Did one of the applications come from Joe Lander?
I don't believe so, but I didn't
woman.
see them.
A woman.
Yeah,
Jim
they all.
expressed interest originally.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
when it was being bantered around on Facebook.
Because she is an accountant, bookkeeper, and might be useful in the future.
All right. Well, I mean, all of
Money,
the
people who know money is good.
Yeah.
Joe's a friend, so I can even bump her on Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody has somebody that they think should apply, they totally should, but I have no idea who has because it all just goes to the mayor.
Right. And on the topic of money,
All right. So, we've been talking a little bit about bonding, and I just wanted to give a little overview of, kind of general municipal bond things. And I apologize if anybody is very familiar with this and it seems boring or redundant, but basically there's different kinds of municipal bonds that are very common. There's the general obligation bonds. Those are, for example, when we found out for the new school, those are the types of bonds that we would do where they are backed by the credit of the municipality and the community as a whole, but it is not for a revenue-bearing project. And so these bonds must be paid for basically through taxation.
but is that the only way they may be paid?
Well, at least from any income that this municipality has, which is primarily taxation.
Right.
But yes. But then there's revenue bonds, which are bonds which are not backed by the municipality's ability to accrue revenue through taxation, but through accruing revenue from a very specific project, which the revenue bond would itself fund the establishment of. These are very commonly used for the construction of bridges or highways that have tolls, or projects such as this that any town would undertake that would have a revenue attached to it.
So that's like the district improvement financing that we did over on One Ferry. Or something like that, where like it's set up that we could bond against it, and then the bond would be paid back by the future property tax revenue that like got. Well, that's a little bit different. That's like it's specifically like an earmark future property tax revenue that wouldn't have otherwise existed without some infrastructure improvements.
Right. Yeah. I think that one's a little, because of the DIF thing, maybe is slightly different, but the concept is the same.
Right.
Yeah. So the thing that's interesting about these revenue bonds is that if for some reason the investment fails to pay off, there is no obligation for the municipality to fulfill the bond through other means. So if, for instance, we were to bond out for this project, and let's say nobody wants this product, and we spend all this money to build it, and then nobody signs up for it, well, the city's not on the hook to pay it. It's just
Who is?
it's a lost investment for the investors who will join. Yeah. So it is considered a little bit more risky than the typical general obligation bond, but still considered to be less risky than a like a corporate loan or other corporate bonds.
If the bond defaulted, or because there was no revenue attached to it, would the municipality take a hit on its credit rating?
Ooh, that's a good question.
There would have to be some some consequence for it, right?
I'm not entirely sure how municipal credit ratings are established, because it's kind
Bond
of
ratings,
it's kind of an insular thing. So it wouldn't really change like the balance sheet of the municipality, and if we were to take out loans that could be backed up through taxation measures, that's very different. So investors may not see that as a credit risk, even if we defaulted on something that was a revenue bond.
Now, in looking back at some of the earlier discussions, it sounded like the process would be to set up a municipal light
Yes.
company, and we would be under that in some way. Does that new municipal department then have liability on the bond?
So the light plant is what we have to form and to be able to
Get the
do
poles.
this legally.
Right,
Poles,
I understand
put it
that.
all up.
But it then becomes a municipal entity under Easthampton.
Right.
And is there, does that then create a bridge for the liability to come back to Easthampton? Because it's a municipal department that we're bonding this under?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, just wanted to check.
So there are stipulations sometimes that will get attached to these revenue bonds. They call them protective covenants, where the bonders may ask that to get like a pledge that if the let's say the amount that we would charge for the service would not generate the revenue that was required, but we would have to increase the amount that we were charging. Or they might ask that once the facility is open and operating, that we commit to maintaining it and keeping it open until the bond has been paid off in full. So we couldn't just build it and then say, well, I'm not really interested in this anymore.
Right.
And they may also want to have stipulations or at least commitments to meet certain target dates for construction or have different progress that's associated with the investment. Those are just possible things. Obviously, the city would go through the bonding process and those would be hammered out. Those things could come up. Now, when the investors are considering whether or not they would be interested in funding a project like this, because it's a revenue bond, they are going to be focusing on the diversity of income sources. They do not want to see revenue bonds that are primarily dependent on a small number of large customers, but they prefer when you have a large number of small transaction or small customers. That's why these are often associated with like tolling type projects, which obviously this undertaking would be along those lines, that it would be a large number of small dollar accounts.
Do you know how like Westfield did their bonding for this?
I didn't talk to Westfield. I believe it was revenue bond.
Right. I mean, that makes sense. I'm just curious thing.
I can talk to Rich, and it's fine, I'm not done, because I just wrote that down too.
Westfield, in the beginning, they funded it themselves through revenue from the electric,
Right, yeah.
and then eventually they bonded for it. But
I know that Greenfield used a revenue bond.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it would be very strange if they didn't.
Right. So this is a pretty common practice for doing these kinds of projects. I only ask
So Greenfield
because...
suggests that another option is better.
I ask primarily because I know that in some of the hill towns, they have these with just general obligation bonds, and they've said like, look, so we're gonna, if you're, basically what they said is that, like I know Charlemont pitched this, which I thought it was kind of a crazy like way to actually pitch this, that they said that, so for this to be functional, we need, I don't know, 40% of the town to adopt this. But if 70% of the town adopts it, your taxes won't go up because the additional like revenue will cover paying off the general obligation bond, which is kind of I mean, if you think about it, it's sort of a crazy proposition to make to people. It's like, well, if you adopt this, your taxes won't go. If you get this new internet, your taxes won't go up. But if you don't, then they will, because we got to pay for it one way or another.
Carrot and stick there.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily proposing that we make a similar proposition. I just think I thought it was incredible. I thought it was incredible. I mean, there's little hill towns that've got really tight knit communities, but like, I thought it was pretty incredible that they could do that.
Well, maybe that because of the size or the dynamics of their particular situation, they may have had a hard time securing investors.
That's true.
Especially as a small population, which interesting though. So then there was also some questions about how the department would be able to operate with the revenue coming in from the service, and whether or not that money would go right into the general fund or if it would go into a separate account that would be controlled by the municipal light plant. And this is straight off of the NASCA, I don't remember what you would call it, but all the laws that we have, they're up on that NASCA.
General laws.
Yeah, the general laws. And it is a bit wordy, but it seems to me that it has to be initiated by the city council and approved by the mayor, but we could create a system for the department to have its own account where the fees that were, or the revenue would go into directly, and that could be used to pay for all sorts of operational costs. However, if there was money left over at the end of the fiscal year, it would be transferred into the general fund. And the amount of money that the department would be able to allocate to its maintenance and upkeep would have to be decided based on either the prior year's revenue or on a projection that they could set a line, agree upon at the beginning of the year with the city council. So they kind of do like a blanket appropriation where you can say, well, we think we're going to get more this year, we think we're going to get less this year for these reasons, and then you're allowed to go up to that amount.
Once it goes into the general fund, do we have any access to get some of it back if we run into some sort of financial emergency,
Definitely.
service emergency, or
Definitely.
whatever?
Well, sure, I mean, that would just be like an appropriation, but I do also think, like, I mean, I don't know, well, I know that when we talk to Westfield, and I keep coming back to Westfield, there's plenty of other great people out there, but they're just the ones that were nice enough to show us around. Like, they were saying, like, that as much as possible, you should try and keep those funds separate from the general fund, because what happens with a lot of MLPs that don't do well is that they get looted.
Yeah, I've had similar, I've been in communication with GSET up in Greenfield, and they are very similar thought, keep the business separate from the town.
But, yeah.
Yeah. It would be great, it would be ideal, but it's also going to be up to mayor.
Yeah.
It might also affect liability issues, so it wouldn't be a good idea to keep things separate from what we were just talking about.
Right. So that's all interesting.
Thank you very much, Paul. It was very informative. Gives us lots to think about.
Okay.
Now, none of this creates any impediment to us going for any sort of grants that are out there from other organizations or governments or whatever, right?
If such grants were to
Yeah,
become
from
available.
our
Right.
research as of so far, there aren't any grants available for a city of our size, and
The mayor has mentioned the infrastructure one, when one ferry starts coming online, but who knows if that will all
then we
happen.
could appropriate some.
Yeah, that's actually, you might be able to potentially, I actually went to the Mass Municipal Association conference, and one question that I had that I wanted to come back from that was I attended a presentation about MassWorks grants, and there's a possibility we could actually get a MassWorks grant that could do something like this. The thing is, well, there's two things. One is that MassWorks grants have to be on like public streets, and of course these would be, except they'd be on private poles. And the other thing is, there's a ton of other really high priority things that get MassWorks grant money, and we only can get a certain amount of money. So Stan would know this probably better than the rest of us. Like, it would be that would be a tough push to try and get MassWorks money.
But what about for a small, for the first segment of it, or for the first test?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying there are political realities that there's lots of other things in the city that want that money. So maybe, and it's worth looking into.
But
But
would that be something then the city looks at all those potential applications before submitting them? Or can you just submit based on who gets it? They can't redirect that money towards a different project?
no, I think we get to decide what we want to do with it. For instance, like, we got a MassWorks grant for the one ferry stuff. It's one of the biggest ones that came out this year, actually. And might affect our ability to get really big ones in subsequent years, because they're like, well, we really helped Easthampton out last time. Well, who knows? But it's I'm not saying it's impossible, and it might be something that when we present this whole thing to the mayor and the council, the mayor might be interested in looking at. But it's not a guarantee, and I've never heard of any other municipality doing that. I guess the flip side of it is municipalities have managed to make this work without getting those. So, but I do think it's maybe worth looking into if there's if we could get a relatively small grant that could help.
Well, at least do the make every poll ready and some consulting to make sure that our money,
Do like the
finances are on the mark,
phase, because that's going to be the first.
Right. Yeah. If we could even get some some money from that, or from a planning assistance grant, which is another thing I'm sort of starting to understand, that could just help fund the design phase, then that would at least it would make it a lot easier for us to make the pitch to the community or to bond issuers, like particular bond buyers, to say, here's what we're going for, and we really know exactly what
And
we're
we've done our due diligence, and we've got our numbers, and we've,
So-
yeah.
And this is a conversation, I mean, this is an aspect of the letter, is asking the mayor
What was the
to,
name of the grant again?
MassWorks. I need to follow up with someone because I wasn't able to ask questions, but when they said like they have done stuff with telecommunications with it, so I thought, well, maybe then. But I don't know.
Okay. So the telecom memo was not attached, unfortunately.
Does somebody have? Okay.
That's one, which
I
is
have
the
a
first
soft
one.
copy online with the edits.
I've got the
Okay,
ones
and
with
this is the most
comments
recent.
on
This,
it.
okay, this is the
amended
new one here.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've got the one.
Yeah, I have the original.
Comments. Okay.
Those today, or?
Are those the comments? Okay.
Stand.
Cool. I'm gonna run upstairs and I'm gonna make 8 copies of this. So
Because I just made a comment on
could I
this
just
one.
get
There you go.
that, and I'll be back in 5 minutes. So if there's something else you guys want to work on, that's.
Discuss amongst
Pause it?
ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably pause it for now.
We're gonna take grants
Off the
early
record.
on the first couple
Yeah,
of
I got
months,
it.
and the vast majority of
Joey
them
got,
are rural
you decided to go with
access
Westfield.
cities.
They have recently been told that they want Holyoke to come online for fiber, for residential. And they're also
that by the
involved
city
in South
council and the
Hadley's coming
mayor?
online.
Because we're talking about the
next
Holyoke
thing.
thing.
I thought Rick was
Yeah.
helping South Hadley.
Yeah, we'll get that on.
Saying anything, but that's your
coming,
sense, so.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
good. So let me
Is that a
just.
site visit that Holyoke is talking about?
Well, actually, let's talk about that next.
All right.
So
Yeah,
that
let's
is what we
talk
want to do.
about
This is the next on the agenda, and then we'll talk about communities that are adopting, and then we'll talk about some of these.
So we went over this last time.
And every time.
And so this is something that I drafted because one thing that caught my attention is that while we're having all of these discussions, just for the benefit of those who were not here or are new, while we're having all these discussions, there are steps that the city could be taking which wouldn't necessarily cost a lot of money or commit us to anything, but which would be necessary if we do in fact want to go through with this. Specifically, the mayor and the planner could probably be helping us with planning grants, right? Or with figuring out where we could secure money to actually do planning, figuring out to what extent our like city's engineering staff would have the bandwidth to help us, that sort of thing. And then on the city council side, we won't be able to do this unless we do a municipal light plan. To do a municipal light plan requires 2 different votes in 2 different fiscal years, and then the voters need to ratify it in the city. In towns, it's just got done in town meeting. We're not town.
Right.
That was a little wrinkle I discovered in December. So,
Better to discover in December than.
right. I've talked to the mayor about that, and she doesn't feel necessarily uncomfortable with the idea of putting before the voters something saying, this isn't going to cost you anything, but it sets us up if we do want to move forward on this. So what we did last time is we just went through, paragraph by paragraph, discussed, amended, and kept going. I would really like to submit an approved memo, like an approved version of this, by the next.
28th? Were we gonna do a
Yeah,
presentation?
to do that for the next,
We'd have to have this.
right, so if we approve this now, then I could put it in for not Wednesday's city council meeting, but the next city council meeting, and that could just get that ball rolling.
When is the next city council meeting?
It would be this,
2 weeks from Wednesday?
yeah, it'd
It would
be the
20th.
third Wednesday, the 20th, yeah,
February 20th.
third Wednesday of the month. So that was my idea. If for whatever reason we reach a point tonight where we really feel we need to take another month to work on this, then that's fine. But
Well, how much of it do you feel has changed in intervening time? I mean, there are some things that we have identified
right,
as being not.
so the changes that we made last time were primarily wording changes that had to do with me being from the hill towns and not really being able to write concisely.
That's your excuse and you're sticking to it?
Yep. It's served me well so far.
I put a comment up this morning on the Google Doc, which referred to this one, and it basically spoke, maybe 3 or 4 sentences on the Westfield.
So there's something that's in addition to
It
what's on
basically,
here?
yeah, it's, preliminary cost estimates, and, I gave them a quick breakdown of what that entailed.
I remember
Okay.
seeing that this
Yeah.
morning.
Cool. I did not catch that, but we can.
That's on the
We have
amended, right?
we have
Yeah.
a laptop, so we can review that as we go.
Yeah.
Do you guys just want to do that? Do you want to just go like step by step through this and just review it to see if anyone has any feedback on this draft?
Yep, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Sweet.
Would be
So I'll start.
Would you like me to read out what you have, Kevin?
And let's do it when we get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the best way. Go ahead.
And if there's anything else that you guys threw, to be honest, I have had a very packed week and have not really been monitoring the Google Doc. So if there's anything on the Google Doc that's not in this draft,
I think the only thing so
Yeah.
far is what Kevin has put
Yeah,
out.
that's
Everything else is here except for that.
Yep.
so, dear Mayor LaChapelle and City Councilors, in May of 2018, the Easthampton City Council approved an ordinance establishing the Telecommunication Advisory Committee with the goal of studying what actions Easthampton might take in order to ensure the fastest, most affordable, fairest possible internet to residents. That committee held its first meeting in August and has been meeting on a monthly basis since. While there is still work to be done, we have several noteworthy findings that we believe the council and the mayor's office may find interesting, as well as a few recommendations and requests that would support our mission. Any thoughts on that paragraph?
The only one is I would have fastest, most affordable, and fairest possible.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, once-
Yeah,
Change
very well.
2 residents to 4 residents.
Okay.
Also, no, that's also.
That's just inflation.
All right.
Anything else? Everyone good with those changes?
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
that's good.
The committee has explored several options which other municipalities have used to ensure quality internet services to their citizens. One option that has been appealing to the committee is the possibility of a municipally owned fiber optics internet utility. The choice of fiber as a medium is a reflection of the fact that it is currently the fastest, most reliable, and most secure way to provide internet services to a home or business. Fiber optic cables, or is that sentence, that's good?
I mean, it's not.
Feel free to nitpick. Don't apologize.
So we could say fiber as a medium is the fastest, most reliable, and most secure way, and so on.
So just take out the choice of.
Yeah, the choice of, and is a reflection of the fact that.
Yeah, and you've already
Fiber is
said
needed, it's the
fastest, most
fastest, most
reliable.
Should we
most
do
secure,
fiber as a
so it'd be
transport
good to
medium?
shorten it.
Because, I mean, media, they're not,
Put the word
Think.
transport in. What do you guys think? I mean, that's technical, so if you guys feel good
I'm
about
gonna
it.
think I'm on Star Trek's bridge or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that.
I think they,
I think that would be understandable as what we're discussing is the scope of the.
yeah,
So this will now read, fiber as a medium is currently the fastest, most reliable, and most secure way to provide internet services to a home or business.
that reads much better.
Cool. Fiber optic cables send data through tiny, incredibly pure strands of insulated glass at the speed of light. That's correct, right?
Absolutely correct.
I read the book. I thought I got it. Yeah, cool.
He can be taught.
Makes time travel possible. Transition.
What this means is that while
Good point. Go ahead.
What this means is that while the electronics which send information through the fiber need to be periodically upgraded, the medium itself is scalable and, quote, future-proof,
Yeah.
or with the actual cables lasting for decades.
I
Yeah.
would just period, future-proof period, and then the actual cables
Will last for
will
decades.
last for decades.
Yeah, your 10
Unless they're
sentences
broken.
can get pretty long.
Unless somebody comes at it with a weed whacker.
Or bad. You could say,
But I like the way you rewrote that sentence.
The information through the fiber can be periodically upgraded, as opposed to need to be.
Well, won't it kind of need to be? Like,
Yeah, well, at some point.
it will.
We have
I
stuff
mean,
that's like 2 decades old,
technology changes.
and it doesn't.
well, how about this? What if you said, will need to be in order to stay competitive?
That's true.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, we can say may.
Or,
Yeah, I think
just-
May is good because
May.
that gives you wiggle room either
Yeah.
way. Yeah. Okay.
But that part of it's the lower cost of it.
Right, yeah. Yeah, like Westfield's upgrading from like a gig to 10 gigs, and that's like not costing them 10 times as much.
Right.
Right.
Yes, my only
Close though. The 10 gig equipment is very expensive.
Oh, no doubt. But yeah, they don't need to like go and put new, bigger wires
yeah, right.
on the. Right. I actually, totally as a side, I did read that book, the fiber book, and the one little thing that blew my mind is they said that the majority of the world's phone conversations occurring at any given moment could be carried along one
Strand
of fiber, which this is all new to me. That's blowing my mind.
Laser beams.
Yeah, it's just laser beams.
That would make the CIA's job so much easier.
just tap that one.
But how do you break it without
Yeah, that's-
disturbing the light beam?
Yeah.
Mirrors.
Okay.
Just for edification, so you guys know that in a lab environment right now, the highest end that they've been able to go on fiber is over 300 gigabits,
Wow.
All right.
which is just insane.
Yeah. All right.
We're talking about bringing 1 gigabit fiber in.
Yeah. So let's see. The municipal ownership model is a reaction to the reality that no private sector company has an incentive to provide the sort of internet services which the residents of Easthampton deserve, particularly when it comes to honoring the principles of net neutrality, which the Federal Communication Commissions opted last year to not enforce going forward.
I would just say FCC there. Whatever that is, that's another long sentence.
Could we say,
Actually, I don't mind that.
When I worked in the federal sector, the idea was that like to write it out like United States Department of Treasury the first time you say it, and then
Then you can acronym it.
that
from
was just
there.
the style guide.
That makes sense, yeah.
would we say to no longer enforce?
What does it currently say?
To not enforce.
Going forward.
To no longer enforce. Cool.
To no longer enforce going forward, that's kind of redundant.
Yeah, I'm really bad about redundancies. As if that
No,
doesn't
just to
become
say
very
to no longer enforce.
I would drop the going forward.
Just say
Right,
to
yeah,
no
that's what I
longer
mean.
enforce it.
Yeah, to no longer enforce.
And and get rid of the going forward at the end.
In the word deserve, I wonder if it would be more helpful to have that as need.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think need is more neutral, but more emphatic too.
Required to
Capitalize.
to maintain economic
Yeah.
something or other.
Right. I actually touch a little bit about that
Yeah,
in future
right.
in further paragraphs.
Yeah, I like need.
So that's okay. So while the committee remains open to other options, we have dedicated most of our time to exploring the viability of a municipal fiber network.
Good.
I think that actually succeeds in getting all the fiber info that we need. I know you can see the T1 there.
Yeah.
Without delving down into the depths and technical, I think this is what.
That's the original
Succinctly
paragraph,
bring
so
it
you
apart.
had.
Yeah,
a few
yeah,
sentences
I
there, and I
made
think
sure.
the new version is much better.
Okay.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
So, okay. First of all, we reviewed Easthampton's contract with Charter in order to see if any provisions of that contract would prohibit Easthampton from undertaking such a project.
Do you mean provisions or provision? Because you said provisions, but you wrote provision. Which flows better
Oh.
to you?
I mean,
If
to
any
see
provision, I mean,
any provision, it would only need to be one provision that says.
Sure.
you could probably
Okay.
drop the in order and just say with charter to see if any provision.
Okay, in order.
Just drop it.
And we could say, to see if any provision would prohibit, and just drop the of that contract, because just a few words earlier we put contract.
Okay.
Bingo. Yeah. Pronouns.
Somebody's
We
read
like
their elements of style.
No, it's flows better.
Yeah.
Struck and white aficionados.
Yeah.
All right.
We could even, first of all, and just say, we have reviewed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Having reviewed that contract, it is the opinion of the committee that nothing in that agreement would stop us from setting up our own network.
I would drop the having reviewed
Yeah.
the contract.
Just the opinion.
It is the opinion of this committee, or
Yeah.
this,
That nothing in the agreement with
agreement?
charter would stop us, yeah.
So nothing indeed.
So just get rid of the having reviewed that.
Yeah.
And that agreement would change agreement to contract.
Nothing in the agreement with charter, you know.
So,
right, because you're using contract above and then agreement underneath.
okay, so we changed that agreement to the contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Review the contract.
That works too.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Okay. We then explored whether the fact that Easthampton does not currently have a municipal gas and electric company and does not own the poles that we would run fiber along would prevent us from setting up such a network.
Wait, let me slow down with that.
Yeah.
Then explode.
At the very least, that sentence needs some commas. Yeah.
But it says, okay, we explode whether the fact, I think because you use whether, you would have to use or instead of and.
And probably a comma before.
Whether it does not have a municipal gas or does
So,
not.
yeah, I would say after municipal gas and electric company, comma, and does not own the poles that we would run fiber along, comma, would prevent us.
Or
Wouldn't
you
it
could
be
say instead
nor
of
in that
saying
case instead
whether,
of or?
you would just say if instead of whether.
There you go.
We then explored if the fact that Easthampton does not have a municipal and does not own the poles.
That would work.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly, with some commas.
Come on, I haven't had a good nor in decades.
All right.
So we're changing whether to if the fact that Easthampton, what else are we changing?
We're gonna
A
add
comma
commas
beforehand.
after the, what is it, after municipal gas and electric
Does not
company,
own the
comma,
poles.
and does not own the poles that we would run fiber along, comma, would prevent us, because that doesn't flow without commas.
Okay. While
Taking
East-
participles.
Would prevent us from setting up such.
While Easthampton would need to become a municipal light plant, MLP, community in order to put fiber up on the poles, and while the make-ready costs associated with getting the fiber up may be somewhat higher for us than for a city with a municipal gas and electric company, it is possible for communities who do not have an existing municipal utility company to create one for the purposes of building a fiber network.
That needs to be,
Do we need,
Period.
do we need any of that?
it's, yeah, this sentence runs on.
I would at least hit that last network with a period and
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
say,
Yeah.
in fact, a number of the old towns, so
Yes,
as opposed
exactly.
to letting it just
Yep.
run like that.
Mhm.
Maybe look at ending each of those commas as a period, because the sentence is just running and
But I
running.
should just say, instead of while, Easthampton would need to become a municipal light plant community in order to run fiber along the poles.
period, while the make-ready costs, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, like,
Cut the and.
Well, since we don't know what the make-ready costs would be in either situation, is there any point in mentioning at this point in time that it may be higher this way than this way?
Here's the reason why I think it is.
Okay.
If we were an MLP, right, and if we had like a gas and electric company of our own, then when it came time to, basically the way that we understand so at this point is you need a foot of clearance to put up fiber. So if you don't have that foot of clearance, you need to pay other people to move their wires so that you can get that foot of clearance.
Or replace the poles.
Or replace the poles if there's not enough, yeah. And so with all that said, if we owned all the electric wires on
And
the
the
poles,
poles.
then we could send our own guys out to do it, and they just do it. The problem is, like Eversource, Charter, Crown Castle, any of these people who have Verizon, yeah, they all have
Space
like
in the telecom
they have space, right? And they also are not going to let our guys come in and touch their wires. They've got like agreements with their unions that say the only people that can touch those wires are the people, are them. Which means that you need to call the Verizon guy and have the Verizon move there, but then you have to call the Charter person, and you have to call the Eversource person, and that is inherently going to make it more expensive than if you owned the poles already.
That's what WIP said is the
Yeah.
greatest cost in getting
Yeah.
your network
Now, here's a thought.
built.
If we could simply drive or screw a 1 or 1.5 foot standoff into the top of the pole,
You can't touch them.
You're not allowed to do
Yeah,
that.
and there's already stuff, there's a
Okay.
cable running along the top
and
of
it
the
has to be
poles.
below
And it has to be in the communication
the
space.
top.
Yeah.
Any communication media has to be in the communication space on the poles.
Yeah.
but
So on this sentence, I think we should remove the word somewhat before higher and just say,
Okay.
and we may also want to put something like the cost associated with getting the fiber up may be higher for a city with no previously established municipal gas and electric.
Okay, so let me just back up for 1 second. I think I see where you're, so first of all, we're going to take out while. We're going to split this into a couple sentences. So the first sentence is going to read, Easthampton would need to become a municipal light plant MLP community in order to put fiber up on the poles, period.
Yes.
We cut out the word and. While the make-ready cost associated with getting the fiber up may be higher for us than for a city
With an established,
Yeah.
with an established.
Established MLP, you could even say there, because you mentioned MLP right above it.
Well, right, but there could be an MLP and not own the poles. I mean,
I'm just saying, you're saying, you know,
I mean, we will be once we ratify.
Yeah, yeah,
MLP
so-
on our poles.
so with
With the established MLP.
I think he's keeping that separate as municipal company.
because you could be an MLP and not have a GA.
Right. And we could also say it is possible to create one for the purpose of building a fiber network. And
Well,
Cut out the community
Cut out
suite,
community.
because you're saying it again, yeah.
yeah, because it's a repeat of basically the previous sentences.
okay, so it is possible for communities. Okay, so we're just going to cut out who did not have an existing. And so it is impossible for communities to create an MLP.
MLP.
Okay,
For the
so,
purpose of building a fiber.
so we're cutting out who did not have an existing municipal utility company.
Yeah.
Yep. And period, and then in fact, the number of hill towns, you know, is less than.
To create an MLP for the purpose of building a fiber network.
Yeah. period.
And the period.
Yeah.
In fact, a number of hill towns to the west of Easthampton are currently in the process of doing
I
just
would actually remove to the west of Easthampton. It's surrounding us. Like, we're seeing it everywhere. Now you're starting to see South Handley coming in. You're starting to see, Holyoke
say
being
number of
interested.
surrounding
Number of
communities.
local hill towns.
A number of surrounding communities.
Because, you know, I mean, Holyoke is looking into it, South Hadley is looking into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But Holyoke and South Hadley have G&Es. Like, they have gas and electric.
South Hadley didn't have their own.
say
so
so.
they-
Good point, because he's talking
Why is
about
he cheating?
he's talking about communities that don't have it.
Probably because they have the fiber experience.
Yeah.
I
But we
guess.
can still use the word surrounding community.
I think surrounding.
Yeah, we can say,
communities,
yeah, we can
you
cut
know,
the,
fits
yeah, all
better.
right. So we
Your
cut
point
out
is good.
hill towns to the west of Easthampton, and we just put surrounding communities.
Yeah,
We're currently in the process of doing just that.
that works.
All right.
Cut this thing right down.
How
many pages are we on now?
We've probably
We're
taken
gonna make Tom diagram all of his sentences.
like we're gonna get like 3 or 4, like a whole paragraph out of this.
Dear
all
Mayor
right.
LaChapelle and City Councilors, here's a paragraph.
Quote. The committee has been in communication with Whip City Fiber, the high-speed internet provider within Westfield Gas and Electric.
Yep.
Whip City Fiber has generally been seen by observers as a success story for municipal fiber, getting a higher adoption rate than they had forecast.
Yep.
Westfield is not the only community in the area to move in this direction. South Hadley recently voted to begin work on their own fiber network, and a number of hill towns, with the assistance of state and federal funds, have been implementing their own networks.
I mean, we can add so many there. There's just so many different.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Do we want to put a list of them?
I mean, I think.
It might be a good idea to give at least a few more.
I would put Holyoke in there at least.
Put Holyoke in there, maybe GSET.
And Greenfield, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
That
having,
story about
Greenfield?
Charlemont sending, or was it Charlton sending Comcast away?
Oh yeah, Charlemont. Yeah.
I've got those set up for the next topic. Yeah, we've got a few different ones. There's
Okay.
actually 2 communities
You
that.
could just
I
provide
would
the
add
footnotes at
Holyoke
the
and
end
Greenfield.
with all the URLs.
Some of those communities are different from what we're proposing.
Yeah, Greenfield and Holyoke have,
Yeah.
like, because Holyoke's right now is only business facing, isn't it?
right.
But
they
were,
also
yeah,
saying that they're being directed to.
But they have a
towards residential.
broadband.
Right.
When we're looking at Worthington and
Yeah.
Chesterfield and such, they have nothing. So they got the last mile
Yes.
funding, so they're in a
Right.
completely different model than what we're.
Right.
I'm not sure
Um,
to include them in
And
that.
what would we gain from including it?
Yeah.
Well,
Just to show the direction
There's-
that communities are taking it on themselves to
Right.
provide this service to residents.
To be like, oh, it's
Yeah.
not just a crazy idea.
This is
This is
done in the
something
public
that we
trust
see
now.
happening
Right.
all around us.
Yeah.
This is the wave of the future.
It really is.
okay.
It's new standard.
Right.
Does somebody want to suggest some language if we want to throw those in? Because I feel like we could say like Holyoke and Greenfield have also adopted similar models.
Why
Yeah.
don't you just provide a footnote and then at the end you can just provide a list of URLs?
Right,
for
say
each story.
communities and, yeah, that would be great.
Some communities which have done a
And then star.
Memo to
Include-
one
Yeah.
council.
Yeah.
So I don't know about
The
ones.
dagger, and then, yeah, we can do that. I think
Okay.
that'd be easy.
Pick a fancy symbol.
Can we do that also right after, like the third word in this paragraph?
I scratched it already.
Okay.
And-
Also has to go back.
Okay.
The committee has been.
In communication with.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes sense, Dave.
Okay. So. Okay.
I think we're down to in many of those
Okay.
cases.
In many of those cases, so do we want to add a sentence saying like Greenfield and Holyoke are also?
I put an asterisk and then put an asterisk at the bottom with listing towns.
Listing of the communities that are adopting fiber.
Okay. Do we want to put that
Footnote.
the asterisk after hill towns or after like at the end of the sentence?
I would actually change hill towns to communities.
Yeah.
I think focusing on the hill towns is
Yeah.
short-sighted. We should,
Right.
because it's not just the hill towns. We're
So
seeing
what is
adoption.
rural communities? Because those I'm putting it. Those are the ones that got the assistance of state and federal funds.
That's true, that's true.
So we could put number of
Number of smaller communities or rural communities.
communities So we put an asterisk and then say those communities include blah 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 blah, and then Holyoke and Greenfield. are
Do we
also-
know a list of what Whip City's helping with, like who their
I don't have
They
that off
have
the
it
top of my
on their
head.
their client
website.
list?
No.
And I have G&E's, HG&E's list. Leverett, Shutesbury, Montgomery and Edgermont, South Hadley, the town of Wendell, Chicopee, the towns of Savoy, Florida, and Holly, Monroe, and then the regional Quad and West Redundant Fiber Network.
It's the state.
This is all HG&E is working on. This is all the stuff that they're doing right now.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're very busy.
Yeah. Okay. Let's come back to that.
Okay.
And figure out like how we want to. The main reason is I would like to be able to vote on this, so
understand.
we should we should figure out that language.
I mean, we could be just really broad in general and just say a number of communities we've been in touch with.
Indeed. I mean, we don't have to
providers.
weigh this down with too many facts.
Yeah,
It's
right.
all for the city.
I would actually just strike this almost to the point of we've been in communication with a number of different providers
Yeah.
and
Alright, cool.
that are
We
helping.
can have a list and, branch it according to Westfield and what Holyoke is working on.
Right.
If any of the city councilors want to look at that, we'll have the information.
Right. I mean, it doesn't actually affect the decisions that we're asking them to
Yeah,
make. So.
Right.
exactly.
Alright.
So let's not weigh this down.
Well, so make it general, that way we don't have to go through the facts and figure out the structure.
All right.
In many of okay, so right, so we just said rural communities with the assistance of federal funds have been implementing their own networks.
Good.
In many of those cases, Whip City Fiber has cooperated with them as a project manager and has developed intermunicipal agreements to share services like billing and technical. A similar model might be viable in Easthampton. As more communities implement these projects and as connectivity becomes an increasingly important priority for individuals and businesses, we believe that Easthampton should be aware of the effects that internet quality will have on our competitiveness when it comes to attracting families and businesses to our city.
Each might be viable to may be viable. That's a super minor. Just 6 out of
A similar model might be viable in Easthampton too.
Do you want to change families to individuals just to keep it parallel?
Individuals,
saying families is-
individuals, yeah.
Attracting homes and oh no, that wouldn't work, homes and businesses,
Residents, new residents.
Change families to residents.
yeah.
That's
I think
fine.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Residents is good word, yeah.
The as, after and, before connectivity is necessary. We could just say, as more communities implement these projects and connectivity becomes an increasingly important priority.
Okay. Yeah, that works for me.
And similarly, after we believe we can eliminate that, we believe Easthampton should be aware of the effects.
Yeah.
So your Stan's comment about the 10K thing, I think is another case where we could provide a footnote and a URL to that story about the 10K. Which is in line with, I mean, it's basically just competition with Vermont.
Can I suggest an alternative approach to handling these footnote type things?
Well, I think we just
Yeah.
eliminated the first one.
Well, so what about, would it be possible that we do this? Because the idea was that, Greg, you were going to go as our chair and
Right. Present.
to the city council. Would it be possible for all these stories and whatnot, for you to send an email to the council, like
Yeah.
ahead of that and be like, dear councilors, here are some
Supporting facts
like
and links
some
to-
stories about things that are going on you may be interested in.
Yeah, good idea.
Feel free to read up and let me know if you have any questions.
Let me add
And that way we don't need to load up this memo with these things, but we still can make sure that the councilors that are interested in reading those things, because this will.
I'm sure there'll be discussion around it
Right.
once it's been presented.
Right, because the big thing is like the way anything ends up in our packet is like it goes to Barb and then it's part of a PDF.
Yeah.
So they won't be able to like click on it there. So it's probably better if we're gonna send them links
To give them
to
something
send
ahead of
an
time, so
email to the mayor and the city council and say, I'm presenting on this memo, here's some stories about what's going on in the area that you might find interesting. Okay.
You can preserve links in a PDF, but that's a subject for.
Well, what I'm
But
saying
they
is
can't
that we
click
get
on them at the table.
Yeah.
they're like in our mailbox,
Yes.
like it's a physical, it's printed out. Yeah.
Oh,
So, because like I take notes all over my packet, like so the like when I say like, what are they talking about here? It's like next to the thing.
So should I send that to you for distribution through?
No, you can just send it to the council emails.
I'll have to get some.
Yeah,
addresses.
they're all up
Right.
on the website. But yeah, I'll help you with that.
Thank you.
All right, we've only got 3.5 paragraphs to go. Okay.
And it's been an hour.
As the community, well, but this is our first.
No, this is I'm not criticizing
product. So, okay.
Just marking the twain.
Yes. As the committee moves into the new year, we are preparing 2 surveys, one for Easthampton residents and one for Easthampton businesses, which we hope will help to clarify the priorities of our community when it comes to internet access.
I like that.
That actually, there's nothing wrong with it.
That's great.
Yay!
All in favor?
All right. Once that survey data has been, it says completed, it should really say compiled, yeah.
Compiled or collected, yeah. Compiled was good.
We plan to hold a public hearing where we present our findings.
We will present with you on that one.
Yes, where we will present our findings and get additional public feedback. We hope that we can rely on the mayor and the city council to help boost.
The visibility?
Yeah, I don't know why it says there. Help boost the visibility. The visibility of the
How about just
survey.
boost visibility?
Okay.
Take their out
Cool.
entirely.
And
Also put the in front of city council, the mayor and the city council.
Where it says to get additional, can we just put in there, receive?
instead of get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
instead of, get additional, just say we receive public feedback, something like that.
Well, I was saying additional because
It'll
the
be
survey
above
will
the
be
survey.
public.
Yeah.
But I do like receive instead of get. That is more formal.
I mean, after visibility, we could change it into to ensure we hear from as many voices.
It's to ensure we hear from as many voices as possible. I like that.
To boost visibility and ensure,
To ensure.
and to ensure we hear from as many voices as possible.
Okay. Those results will also make up a section of the report that we hope to present to the mayor and the council later this year.
Can we just say which we will present
Yes.
to the mayor?
We rather than we
That's a
hope.
good
Yeah.
point, which we
I mean, that
will
is
say.
kind of our
It's like the
primary
Mueller
function.
report.
Yeah.
Because he can do with it whatever he wants when he gets it.
Right.
We're still gonna
Right.
give it to you.
Okay.
Here's our big commented.
Yes. Okay, so I'll read it as it currently is, and then let's talk about the comments. Okay. One area where the committee could use some help is cost estimation. While we have developed some preliminary estimates of the cost of a project like this based on information which Whip City Fiber shared with us, getting a true estimate of the cost will involve performing a pulse survey to determine the amount of make-ready work which would be required among other tasks.
All right, can I butt in because
Yeah.
this is going to actually, so Kevin's comment is preliminary estimates based on conversations with Whip City Fiber indicate an investment of $10 to $12 million to wire the entire city. This includes startup costs, main feeder cable, communication center with server routers and switches, and the cost of running fiber optic cable throughout the city and hooking up homes and businesses. The project can be implemented in phases to demonstrate feasibility and to control initial costs.
I like that.
I like it, that's very well.
Yeah. So does that just what does this what sentences are taken out, or where does that go?
I think it replaces.
Just this, so this entire so it says. Oh, so is that
I was thinking that either got added at the end, but then I was thinking it's probably while we have developed some preliminary estimates of the cost, I think maybe right there, so.
So we take out the while and we say.
I would, yeah, from there, I would then try to incorporate, the thing, and then I'm trying to figure what.
Right, so starting at while,
Right.
We could put in the verbiage preliminary estimates based on conversations with Whip City Fire,
Yeah.
indicate an investment of $10 to $12 million to wire the entire city, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then
So,
come back.
So we're getting
We're fully aware of the fiscal limitations imposed on our city under uncertain economic times.
I think we also have to make that while the committee is willing to help in every way it can, it would be prudent to have a professional cost estimate done. I think
Okay,
that
yeah.
is important.
okay.
So basically wiping out from well to well.
Pretty much, yeah. And again, you know, once this thing gets rewritten, then everybody can go to the Google Doc and look it over one last time and then approve it. Are we going to approve it tonight?
I'd prefer to approve it tonight,
Okay.
but if somebody objects, then they object. That's
No, I mean, you're catching all the changes here, so that works fine.
The other thing I would like to strike is the second well and just go, the committee is willing to help in every way it can.
okay. So,
One small edit once you get that noted.
so the commute. I crossed out too much stuff. All right, I'm gonna assume that I'm gonna make a note there.
It's like one long sentence and getting crossed out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chopping out an entire sentence, adding a few more.
Okay, so we say one area where the committee could use some help is in cost estimation, and then Kevin's bet, and then it comes back in.
Right.
The committee is willing to help in every way it can.
Though it would not be prudent to consider a project like this without professional cost
Professional
estimate.
cost estimate.
Really though, or but?
Or however.
However,
Okay.
would work, yes.
Yep.
Rid of the part about Whip City sharing information with us.
That sentence is going away and
That
being
is, okay.
replaced by the stuff that I'm putting in. Or I put in more than.
I think we cut the phrase, which itself will cost money.
A professional cost estimate.
Yeah, I don't think, yeah, I agree, that kind of, you know, a professional cost estimate, I think people realize that won't be free, so,
And the next
Right.
sentence, we ask for
yep, I would just get rid of that.
Okay. While we are fully aware of the fiscal limitations imposed on our city in uncertain economic times, we ask that Mayor LaChapelle and her department heads explore ways in which such a study could be economically carried out.
Which I think is perfect to
Yep.
strike,
I like
which
that.
itself will cost money. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect. Thank you for getting that language. I think that
No, I wish I could have got to you faster, so, crazy week.
Okay. At this point, the mood of the committee is that we are cautiously optimistic.
Well, the committee is cautiously optimistic.
thank you.
Yeah, remove the in the mood of.
Okay?
Or,
Absolutely.
at this
Yeah.
point, the committee is cautiously optimistic.
We need to- More deterministic.
Yeah, so,
We've done our research.
Determinedly
We feel
optimistic.
strong.
Very optimistic.
Doggedly optimistic.
while there is research left to do, we are at this time, we at this time would like to recommend to the city council that they vote for Easthampton to become a municipal light plan. In order to do so in accordance with MGL Chapter 164, Section 35,
64.
the council must vote to become an MLP in two separate votes, both with a 2/3 majority in two separate fiscal years.
May I go back briefly?
Yeah.
I don't like the at this point, at this time,
Okay.
between the two sentences.
Yeah.
Maybe just,
We would like
the
to-
committee is cautiously optimistic. No, maybe, I don't know.
Let's take out at this time.
Okay.
We
We would like to recommend, we
We
recommend,
recommend.
yeah.
Yeah,
We,
exactly.
That was just bothering me, the point in
yeah,
time.
yeah. No, I agree. I caveat everything way too much. Okay.
And to the city council,
Um,
they vote for Easthampton.
So let's see.
We recommend the vote.
Where are we?
The city council While there's still research
left to do, we recommend to the city council that they vote for Easthampton to become a municipal light plant.
I would capitalize the MLP in that, or just do MLP, or do it as you did before.
Okay, which would you prefer?
I would capitalize the thing because you refer to MLP right below it, so that keeps the train of thought rolling.
Okay.
We could also strike in order to do so and just say in accordance with
agreed.
MGL.
Yep. Paul, you're the official committee editor now.
He's got the eye.
In accordance with MGL Chapter 164, Section 35, the council must vote to become an MLP in 2 separate votes, both of the 2/3 majority. I should put a comma there.
Yeah.
Can I suggest one change here?
Yeah.
The council must vote to become an MLP in 2 separate votes occurring in 2 separate fiscal years, both
works.
2/3 majority.
Okay.
That works.
I think that putting the in 2 separate fiscal years after is a little like it was.
Should we say both or each?
Each.
In 2 separate, yeah. I agree.
Each.
That's
So we
Yeah.
we move
Oil under the skin there.
we move in 2 separate fiscal years.
So in 2 separate votes occurring in 2 separate fiscal years.
Then
Both with a
comma,
2/3
both with a
majority.
2/3 majority.
Okay.
That definitely reads better. Yep.
And we
course,
can put a
part-
period after this separate fiscal years. And say the decision must then, or will.
Well, 2 separate fiscal years wouldn't be the end of that sentence anymore. It would be the 2/3.
Both of the 2/3
Oh, yeah.
majority.
Yeah.
No, that
Okay.
reads okay.
Yeah, and then we can strike that and.
And get rid of that and then say that decision was then
That decision was then
ratified.
read by the voters
Good.
in a regular or special election.
Yeah.
Becoming a municipal light plant does not cost the city anything, but it is a necessary step if the city wishes to develop a municipal fiber network.
Yep.
It is a necessary step for the city to develop a fiber network.
So I'm assuming nobody wants to pay for a special election, so this would need to happen. So
November.
in the general election.
In November. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So that I'm about to get to that.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh,
So, wait, so you're saying, but it isn't, what are we doing instead
I
of?
think you're okay. The way
Okay.
you wrote it.
Okay,
The
cool.
change was kind of.
In order to avoid either a special municipal election or a 2-year delay in this process, the committee would recommend that the council take the first of 2 votes this spring, enabling them to take a second vote at the beginning of the fiscal year and put this matter before the voters in November of 2019.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That works.
We hope that this memorandum has helped to clarify the work that the Telecommunications Advisory Committee has accomplished so far and the direction that we are heading in. We thank Mayor LaChapelle and the council for giving us the opportunity to explore this exciting subject, and we welcome any questions or feedback that you may have.
Yeah.
Respectfully,
strike that.
and then us.
All right. I'll vote for it.
Nice.
So,
Gentlemen.
You really hammered that one out well, I think.
thank you for all your feedback, guys. I should bring
Thank you for doing it now.
So, would we like to vote to ratify?
Yeah, I will make a motion to ratify the memo to the mayor and city councilors as amended.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passed.
Great. I'm gonna need your physical signatures, so I guess what I'll do is I will go home, I will edit this, and then I'll just track you guys down in the next 2 weeks and get your
Dibs on lunch on
signatures.
Friday.
I do Thursdays, but yeah.
Dibs on lunch on Thursday.
How hard would it be to do right now?
Well, it's just gonna take me a while to type it up, and then I'm also gonna have to print it
And
and,
sign.
because,
It's like,
yeah,
You want me to proofread your final thing before everybody signs it to?
just make sure I got everything
Yeah,
right.
I can proofread it. and
Yeah, that's
sign it.
fine.
Yeah.
And I'll just
Okay.
like, maybe it'll just be like, if people are around this weekend or whatever, I'll figure out a way to swing by and get everyone's signatures before the 20th. We have like almost 3 weeks, so we, like, we'll figure it out. But great, I feel good about that, and I'll be putting in coordination with this, I will be introducing that first MLP vote for not this coming city council meeting, but the one that you're presenting at. So
Right.
we'll have this chat during communication with heads of boards and other elected officials.
Yep.
And we can
That's on
have
the
that
20th?
conversation. Yep. And then
Calendar.
like after that we'll go to like reports for committees, and when it comes to rules, I'll submit this. So great. Thank you
That's good.
for
We
your
already had that.
patience, and I feel really good about that. Thanks, everyone.
That's 6 p.m. on,
Yep. If for whatever reason that one doesn't work, like we can move it back to the first one in March, but I'm just eager to get this into subcommittee personally.
I agree.
excellent, good. All right, some of the things that I have, and I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of what's going on. The two big ones, of course, are Charlemont and South Hadley. They're both projects that are moving forward. If you guys haven't heard about Charlemont, theirs was actually probably the most stunning of all of it, because they turned down a Comcast proposal to move forward. It was only going to cost them about, okay, was going to cost them exactly $462,123 to get Comcast to come in and roll cable to the whole town. And they rejected that as the whole town. The town actually voted it
The
down.
town meeting, yeah.
And they are advancing a $1.4 million project to have a town-owned fiber network.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
And they're, like I said, they're funding that with like a general obligation bond too. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
cool though. Yeah, and that one was making.
They're
news,
working
like,
with
national
Westfield.
news. Yeah.
They're working with Whip City. And then, of course, the email that we just got from, and this is the other thing I'd like to put up at this point, is that we have been invited by both HG&E and Greenfield GSET to come up and do
Like visits. Because I would be interested.
So I'll coordinate some days, I'll put a poll up like I did last time, and we'll make some visits.
Isn't it all possible that they would? I mean, when we're talking about these, like, do you think that they'd be willing to maybe host us on like a Saturday morning or?
I'll ask, but
I mean, right? 'Cause
who knows?
yeah, maybe they if they don't have anyone on site or whatever, like I get
Right.
it, but I do feel bad that like we definitely have members who are just not able to
come
make
during
it
the
to,
day, yeah.
including me sometimes. So, you know,
Yeah.
What days are good for people, usually?
if it's not a weekend, Thursdays are the best for me.
Not Wednesdays.
Not Wednesdays, but Thursdays maybe?
I'm flexible.
I'm pretty flexible.
Thursdays are pretty good for me. I think we should probably hit the next couple of Thursdays.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they, yeah,
This coming
That's it.
Thursday, I have
Day in the week I gotta take off work, so.
Gotcha.
this coming Thursday, I have a couple of doctor's appointments scheduled, but
the following.
the following Thursday, I'm clear.
It's not a day, right?
It'll be during the day. Right.
Yeah, not this Thursday.
Let me reach out to them and see what times.
oh, there you go.
It's all day.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing that too.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
Like 8 to 4.
Yeah. All right. I will set up some polls and
Okay.
we'll figure it out from there. I will see if they have ability to do a Saturday, but
Yeah.
well, I'll let you know what I get back from them. What
I mean,
times that they
yeah.
have available.
My thought is that these sorts of guys probably have somebody working like on those days, but they also, I mean,
It's probably just like
They're
tech
gonna want
and crew.
to
and- Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, let's see them. I mean, just to give you some, I don't know, for whatever reason, that email only went to the two of us, but
That's the only names that you got from.
from the mayor, yeah. Oh,
Not the
wait.
mayor. It was. Who did you get it from? Lindsay.
That reminds me. We can deal with this after the meeting, but Lindsay also, like, there's some just general form that people generally sign
Right,
when they
right,
join
yeah,
these
we gotta
things,
do that.
and we never did those. So, I mean, I think most of us are members of other things, but she did want us to sign.
Right. She doesn't have our contact info for everybody. So the only people that she knows is Tom, and now
The
me
mayor's
because
assistant.
Tom emailed her about me, but we gotta get everybody else.
Yeah, she doesn't have like
Contact info.
all of our contact info and stuff. So she had,
She emailed me, and I sent her back a form that she asked me to fill out, because I'm on,
okay.
I'm on 3 committees.
Yeah,
You're already on committees, it's probably the new people like me.
Right, so-
So, and I can reach out to the mayor's office, so why don't we
Yeah.
all update them?
Yeah.
And we'll put them on our.
That's
Yeah.
she actually dropped a bunch of forms in my mailbox for that purpose, and I was supposed to grab them and bring them down. But we can do that after the meeting. It's not like official.
If they're still up there, yeah.
Yeah,
We can do
it's not official business. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I'm assuming she has my information because I just submitted the
who
application.
knows? But anyway,
By
it's just a
email.
form. We'll fill it out. It won't be a big
Municipal
deal.
bureau.
Okay. Sorry. Anyway, we were talking about
Right, so I listed off who, I mean, we know who Whip City's working with, we know who HG&E is working with. There's a lot of movement going forward, there's a lot of these places, so I think meeting with people other than Whip City would be a great idea. At least get a better idea of how other companies work, other groups are doing what they're doing. And it's always good to get competition. If we ever do decide to move forward with one of them in a consulting aspect.
I mean,
To know that we have options other than just one.
right.
I think Greenfield had some issues with theirs, and it'd be interesting to see what maybe we could learn from
Yeah.
anything that
Yeah,
was a
right.
growing pain for them.
I've been talking to John, he's the director there, and he's very willing to talk about some of the stuff that they've gone through. And they definitely had some growing pains.
The interesting thing about the Holyoke email, just to say that whole competition thing, is that they were very straight up about saying, like, if you do this, we would like to build it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know, like, I know that they built out Leverett's model, which was seen as pretty successful. We're also not Leverett, but like, it is interesting to see that there are people being like actively interested in doing this work. So it's just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're probably not going to have to be begging anybody, I
It
guess.
just gets too close.
Yeah.
There were a couple of things that I did want to talk about. There were a couple of towns that have rejected doing their own broadband, that have decided not to go that route. One of them is
One just did that vote.
Worthington.
Yeah.
Worthington just stepped back. They were going to do their own. Apparently, they ran into funding issues, and they decided instead to take Comcast's offer. So Comcast, over the next couple of years, is going to wire the entirety of Worthington,
Yeah.
which I don't envy them that task.
Which might be why Worthington backed off from it. I mean, we're a different model than Worthington.
Yeah.
So much different.
Yeah, and that's the one we already talked about. Where was the other one? Worthington was the most notable one. But for the most part, everybody else is doing it the other way. They're one of the few that have decided to go further into Comcast and not take it on their own.
Did they ever say why besides, I mean, is it
Cost.
Cost.
It would cost them
Geographic
more.
stuff and have special considerations that other towns don't have?
Worthington is very remote.
Miles between houses.
It's
Yeah, it's right.
I mean, I'm from Williamsburg, and Worthington is rural for us. So it's like,
Williamsburg's the big city.
yeah, exactly.
I have a
It has a
client out
bank,
there,
so.
and I have a client out there in the unreachable portions of Worthington, and it's absolutely unreachable. The only thing they have is Dish,
Yeah.
and in a modern world, and they're a destination spot, so they have clients coming in that constantly expect broadband, constantly expect high media consumption, and the Dish literally runs out at 50 gig a month. You use 50 gig of data, you're done. And they hit that every month. And there's like days where they have nothing because the Dish company will not even sell them a higher package. That's it.
Or in the
That's it.
Somewhere in the cats.
And I'm like, you know what? It sucks. AT&T, you can get a repeater in here and just do 4G for now because it's better than the satellite you got coming in here.
Yeah.
And at least you can get unlimited.
So, yeah.
You may have all discussed this earlier on. Have we have you guys looked into possible savings of scale by including our directly adjoining communities into this project? For example, Southampton, Westhampton.
We have not considered that really. I know that opening up into each of those areas would be opening into different city governments and
City governments, yes.
polls and
But like
logistics.
Westhampton, I don't think has any cable company in there right now.
Right, but that would
Southampton
be a
has charter.
very high hanging fruit to get to, because the cost per mile is what the real detriment is.
It's also worth mentioning that just the way that city government works, the only person who has the authority to have those conversations is the mayor.
Right.
So it could be that we start to do a thing and she calls up the town manager in West Hampton and says, hey, you want in on this? Go bring it to your town meeting. But like, and if so, great. But
I think that a lot of places that are doing this, people like Whip City Fiber and Holyoke Gas and Electric, they're still maintaining that each community that they're doing is kind of its own separate thing, and they'll steward them. As
They'll do some
opposed to kind of
shared
taking it on.
services.
Right.
Okay.
With some sharing of services, but without taking on the whole structure of
Okay.
this community. And this
Yeah,
community.
I started thinking about this primarily with Southampton, because Easthampton Media also supports Southampton. And I don't know who owns it, but I know that when we moved into Eastworks, we paid $8,000 to run new fiber from Southampton to Eastworks to our studio.
I think Spectrum owns that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Pretty sure.
But we paid that money to
Yeah.
do it, so we may have certain rights to use it as transport if there's any dark in there. Just a thought.
So it's an interesting thing, and I hear what you're saying, like that's a community that's not being served.
Well, I mean, they have charter.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Oh, they do have charter.
They are a charter community, but I think, did I send in that spreadsheet of subscribers? I'm not sure I
Yes,
sent
you
it to
did.
you. Okay,
It's-
so charter has
I
had
think I
a
put it in the,
significant reduction in subscribers in Southampton as well as in Easthampton.
It's true. So I don't know if you guys saw this. It's in the file
How
share.
far the numbers ended back in what, 2000?
17.
Oh, I couldn't get it to scroll right.
Oh, okay.
I was told that,
So if you take a look, I'll highlight. So it looks like around 2014, 2015, they started to see a slump. Before that, they were solidly in the mid fives.
right,
And then as soon as you get to about 2016, it drops below 5,000 subscribers in Easthampton. And it
Where-
drops from almost 2,000 in Southampton to about 1,800.
when we met with Whip City, he gave those numbers of 7,500 to 8,000 subscribers in East Hampton, so somebody's off there.
And-
Where is
Oh, that's
this?
how many homes there are.
This is from an organization called Mass Access, which
Okay.
And this is
for
cable
all-
subscriptions,
This is cable
not-
subscriptions.
Not data.
TV?
This is
Not
just
internet service, this is
Well,
just cable television.
most people who have
Right.
most.
cable.
But
Well, so I think there are probably more people that have internet and no cable than have cable and no internet.
Now.
So again, that would make up.
And that's exactly what you probably see here is the
Exactly,
die-off,
exactly,
because you're
right.
starting to see more and more cable cutters.
Right.
People who are going to an internet-only connection,
Yeah.
and I'm one of them.
So that, I mean, that affects the ability of the community to watch government meetings on television. If they don't have cable, they don't get
Yeah.
the Easthampton media signal.
But they can watch a lot of you online, right? There's
We're putting more
good
and
amount
more
of
of it
content.
available online. But again, it's not, they're not watching live online. They could watch live on the cable system.
Who pays for Easthampton Media?
The cable company, well,
5%, isn't it?
yeah, it's part of the money that the cable company pays to the municipality 95% of that goes to the PEG
Were
station.
you here last month? Because they came in and did a
Yeah.
presentation to
Right.
us, wondering if we would be interested in continuing that. And we basically said that's not our decision, it's really the mayor and the city council.
But it's,
What happened?
oh yeah, so Easthampton Media came in.
and did a presentation to us.
I think the
Yeah, you
meeting's
both
up
were on that-
online.
that-
You might, it's pretty
Yeah,
cool, but
it's in
they're,
the minutes and it's online.
yeah, I mean, they were basically talking about the idea that we should stay in touch, because particularly if this led to a lot of to more people cord cutting, that could have a serious effect on their bottom line, because they get paid off of these TV assessments. But also, the FCC is looking at rearranging how those assessments are done, which could be an absolute death blow to like a lot of the public and educational governmental TV stations in the country. So there might be some room as we talk about this for some synergy there, where if we set something up, maybe, I mean, ultimately it would be the decision. It wouldn't be our decision, but we might talk about making a recommendation that maybe
An influence toward.
maybe there's a maybe if like the bill, if we set this up and you've got your fiber bill, maybe there's like a little assessment put on top of that to help fund those services,
Yeah.
because I really think that they are essential for a functioning local democracy. But
Yeah,
but
I think it's 100% certain that the FCC is going to go after slashing that stuff.
yeah.
Well, what's happening is they're changing, they're trying to change the rules as to what the cable companies can claim for in-kind donations. So if they do something for us, they can deduct that from the money they pay to the city.
So just one little point of order, since this isn't on our agenda, there might be people from the public that would actually like to come in and talk about this, but since we didn't publicize it,
No, I understand.
but we should talk about it next time.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
So
you
what do
know,
we want to add to the agenda? The FCC and
Let's talk about the FCC and public public TV and all that stuff.
and in the spirit of openness, I want to tell everyone that I am also the vice president of the board of Easthampton Media, so we will stay in communications with you.
Great.
whether we like it or not.
So what's left?
Reviewing the poll.
Poll. So this is the second pass of what would be a survey to residents, not to businesses. So we need to work on a separate one. And I don't think I'm quite as qualified to think up questions along those lines. So if
I
somebody
will be
wants-
having
I
a
would
meeting
be
with
happy.
Mo sometime in the upcoming couple of weeks, so we could try to figure out some
Okay.
questions for businesses. Yeah.
Could I be included in a portion of that meeting?
Sure,
If you
yeah,
if you have time,
absolutely.
I'd be happy to come down and talk.
Then it'll be a different meeting I will set up.
I met Mo at the City Spirit last year,
She's
so
fantastic.
she was in my group.
I am very, very happy with that direction of the Easthampton Chamber.
Yeah.
Been making some great strides.
I did reach out, so there's coming up with these questions, and then there's the idea of getting the survey out to the residents and businesses and getting their feedback. So we did talk back in December about how best to do that. And we had talked, I think it was Mayor LaChapelle at our November meeting.
I believe
We had asked her, October, we had asked her about the survey account, and she had mentioned she was gonna try to get
That's
an
right.
account in that fiscal year, before the new year, she was gonna try to get a paid account so that we could ask. I reached out to Alan, her chief of staff, a week ago, just to see if that had been established, and it hasn't. I guess they're still using his account or someone's free account, so I'm gonna keep corresponding with him and see if there isn't a city account that we can use to distribute the survey once it's...
What are they using for the,
I think they use SurveyMonkey.
makes sense.
They do.
But if they don't come up with one, we'll have to figure that out and how best to, one, do it electronically, but also maybe have a paper version. I'm thinking maybe at the Council on Aging, or I'll
Community
talk.
centers,
We should talk about where we
yeah.
should make these available for people at the library. I know Brendan, who is the director over at the Council of Aging. I'm over there for a chess club for kids twice a month, so I'll talk to him, see if there isn't maybe they can get a station set up. Computer
PCC,
station.
Robin, you do it.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll definitely need to talk about that, but this is just another pass at the questions that I think would give us the best source of information about what people are experiencing right now, and more importantly, what they want to experience in their internet service.
questions.
So if you want to give a read over these, I don't know if you want to provide feedback. I think they need to be pared down somewhat. I don't know how many questions is reasonable to ask people and expect their full attention.
Right.
But I do think there's also one question will be either at the beginning or the end. Do you want to sign up? Yeah, do you want to sign up? That's the good paper.
That's a good bit, yeah.
Do you want to sign up
No
for this
expenses,
and
right.
give us your name? You know, you can either remain anonymous, or you can, if you want to be an early sign up, potential adopter based on doing some rollout to a certain area, give us your name, your address, and your email.
Right.
So we can contact you and sort of, that's
I mean, a
impact.
lot of places do prepaid, like they get clients to actually buy in. I know Whip City did it, GSET did it.
But yeah, that,
Where
I mean,
they'll
they
essentially
didn't
have
require
people
any.
put their money where their mouth is. I know that's after this point, but
They didn't
yeah.
actually do that. They didn't have to put the. It was
But they,
to determine the test area. They just had people sign up,
Right.
and wherever the highest density crossed over with the most feasible is.
Well, that's where they started getting like, okay, give us your preliminary
Yeah.
buy-ins, and then
Right.
we'll make it roll.
So one thing that I'm seeing right here, this is 16 questions.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I do for my job, part of my job is being a casino regulator, and we have a survey that we give people as they exit the casino
Yep.
to ask them what their experience was like, how much money they spent,
Right.
where they were coming from, because that helps to determine what their total economic impact is.
Right.
And it's a little bit longer than this.
Oh,
and we
really?
don't have a super hard time getting, like, we'll put it this way, we have like a Dunkin' Donuts gift card that we hand out as an incentive. We
Right.
use them all. Like, there's lots of people who decline it, but we've never had trouble getting our target sample size with a slightly, like, if you're taking this on your computer, it's 16
Yeah,
clicks.
oh, yeah.
It's really not actually that
It doesn't take
involved.
that long as you give well-structured questions that are easily
Right, and-
answered with, you know.
they don't have to throw them all out either, people
Right.
go for
And-
brevity, so I think.
So
the-
I was trying to get at, triangulate what the information is that we
Yeah.
want. And so, like, for instance, if you look at question 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, I was
It's like, it's not enough to say how many disruptions in your service have you experienced this past year. It's sort of like, let's
how many times have you
look
had to
at
call service?
how many or how many times have you experienced this week? How many in the last month? How many in the last year? It kind of gives you a different. The answers aggregate in different ways. I think the numbers they give you. So I think I don't know if it's useful to ask 3 questions like that or just.
I don't know if it
simple-
is.
So are we hoping to, like, finalize and approve this tonight? Or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I would like to get it
As
rolling.
soon as,
in
yeah, I'd like to
March.
rush out.
Close, yeah.
I'd like to get it out by March.
Okay.
But we could definitely kind of go through this, and can you provide a copy of this onto the drive that I shared?
Oh, sure. Yeah, and I
And
did
then we can
share a
actually kind of
link
look through it and make
with
comments.
that.
There was a link in one of
In
those
my
original
email
ones,
that I sent this
yeah.
afternoon, there's
Great.
a link,
Great.
and I can make it so that anybody can comment on it.
Good.
So I've got a question
Yep.
about what one of the goals of this survey is. I know, like, Westfield said that they did a bunch of surveying, and they were able to kind of select parts of their community. They divided up all these little pieces, and they could say, okay, in this area, you know, these many people have expressed interest. In this area, only those many people, so we're going to go here. Is that what kind of information we're looking to collect in this survey?
That's what the
That's-
last question was all about.
That's what I think we would do in addition to, we want to find out information about, that'll help us talk to people about adopting this service. And so find out what their pain points are with their current service. I mean, I think we know just anecdotally based on the Facebook groups that people are unhappy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we could break it up according to precincts. We might want to drill down a little bit more than that, but that would be a good start.
I think giving people the option to either stay anonymous or give us, if they want to be considered, explain it as, hey, we're going to take the highest dense, if we can find an area where people are really interested in this,
Right.
that's where we'll start.
That's
So if you want, that's your incentive right there. If you
Yeah,
want to be an early adopter,
Yep.
give us
Email,
give us your
address,
contact
phone
info.
number.
Yeah.
And your address.
Right.
But I'm wondering if these questions are
Yeah,
adequate
that's right. I
to
said address.
finding out what people's current experiences and what they want.
Yep.
It's also, I think, what
I
Westfield,
said it.
when we visited Whip
Wasn't
City,
subtitled.
they talked about you have to consider different demographics, so that cord cutting is a lot scarier if you're
80.
as opposed to 20, which
Yep.
is you've probably already done it. So get people to say, what's keeping you from doing this? What, how, and also the bundling, which is, I think, getting people to realize, hey, you're gonna, if you have a bundle, this is only gonna replace the
Yeah,
internet.
that's an important question.
What's gonna keep
And
you
I think
from-
that's a thing that all of the different providers are doing, because every single one of them is bundling, is able to bundle now with things like voice over IP phones. You can get Voodoo, you can get, there's a bunch of different providers that Easthampton could partner with. Everybody else that I've seen now is giving out Rokus.
Yep.
Not giving,
Yeah.
but selling a Roku as part of the service, so that that makes cable cutting so much easier, and people see it as kind of a one-stop shop. They don't have to feel like, oh, now I have to go and order this, and now I have to go and order that to get the thing that I needed. They can just
Right. So I
centralize.
think that's what, so to speak to your question about what the survey would do besides find out which people are interested, I think Whip City, when they did their survey, they found out that that was going to be a difficult point for people to switch. So they have done a ton around education and selling things at cost. They sell
Roku accounts.
Roku,
they sell-
Amazon Fire.
I don't think they do Fire.
They do
They do-
Amazon or Google. They just sell a lot of different
they do a lot of
devices at cost
Amazon is
without
stuff to
any.
work with.
Yeah. So I think they learned that this was going to be a serious impediment to adoption if they didn't provide that service.
And I think it's true,
So it
absolutely.
would be interesting to see, is that something that we need here, or are most people comfortable? And that's, I asked question number 3 is just,
Right.
how difficult, if you haven't done it, how difficult do you think it will be?
Well, we know there's at
Now,
least 4,900 people who still like cable in the
Right.
town, so.
I think sports is going to be a big.
It's
that's
getting
always the
easier and
biggest.
easier every year.
Right.
And I think you were out last meeting, but Yahoo just started doing live streaming.
Well, I just watched the Super Bowl on the CBS app that was free for the first time
Yep.
last night. So
It's
I
getting
I didn't
there.
have to, and it was.
Absolutely.
I just
getting
downloaded
there.
it there and
4K or
I don't.
on your
I
iPad?
don't.
That's one of the things that's coming. Like we're seeing, like there's 4K streaming now. Like there are providers that are streaming 4K services right now.
Yep.
8K is coming.
I just bought a 4K TV with a built-in Roku.
Yeah. It's coming. So you're going to see people. You're going to see people needing bandwidth because it chews up so much bandwidth to stream that kind
That's
of.
the other question I asked here was, how many devices
Yeah.
do you have in your house? Because we have a significant amount. I think it would be interesting. I don't know if this is the place for it, but to find out about. I think one of the questions had what major activities do you use internet access for? Is remote work, telecommuting? Finding out those numbers will be interesting.
Yeah.
But then that sort of starts to cross over into business. So I don't know if this represents what everybody wants to ask, but these are the questions that I thought were.
I just wanted to add that Charter is now also offering cellular service as part of the bundle.
Really?
Yes. And it's at a good price, but only Android phones.
Are they, who are they leasing, or are they what's the?
I don't know whose
Right.
network they're on.
They use somebody else's, like
Somebody else's
Verizon's
network,
or
yeah,
T-Mobile.
yeah,
or-
Well, everybody's open now.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you've got Google Wi-Fi in here. You've got there's like so many different pay-as-you-go plans.
So what's the next step for this? Get everybody to read it one more time and comment, and then we can work up a final draft and look at it the next meeting?
Pretty much.
Sure. That sounds great.
And then maybe aim for having a draft
Of the
of the
business.
business one at that, maybe
Yeah.
sent out before that meeting so we can get both of them cleared and
Yeah.
approved.
Yeah.
And then I'll have to,
What days are good for you for getting together with them?
I'm good.
Flexible? All right, I'll coordinate.
You added question 14, which is the one that I would, if Easthampton offers this service, would you consider switching? So that's good.
Yeah, I didn't know if we wanted to do different, so
Right.
like different yeses, qualified yes is like, yeah, I'm dying for this, I really want it. Or yes,
There
if,
there might be a better way to do 7, 8, and 9, but
Right.
I understand where you're going with that and breaking it down by week, month, and year, so.
so if people want to look over that, should we set a date for getting everybody's feedback, just so we...
Let's try and get everything before the agenda goes out.
So after, what is the city council on February 20th for your memo, and when is the next meeting is?
So the next meeting would be on the 4th,
Yep.
and you would have to have everything by the 28th.
Yep.
So can we aim for like the 22nd to have everybody's feedback? Is that feasible?
Survey
That's feasible for me.
feedback, that's good for me.
All right, great. Yeah, I mean,
I'll send out an email, I'll share that link again, I'll get it to you, Greg, so you can put it up on the shared
I
drive.
have two things that I want to make points of, and that's for 12 and 13.
Yep.
I think you should add televisions.
What is your primary device for that?
Yes, I agree, actually.
Good point.
Okay.
Because a lot of people won't think about that if they read laptops, tablets, smartphones.
Yeah.
They won't think, oh yeah, my TV uses internet.
My refrigerator.
Well, does the TV use internet or does TV use Wi-Fi? Because the TV doesn't connect directly out. It doesn't send
But it
anything.
goes to Wi-Fi, which goes directly out.
Well, but,
I mean, like my laptop goes to Wi-Fi too.
No,
My
okay.
smartphone goes to Wi-Fi.
For the Cat 5.
Yeah, you can directly connect your TV
Yeah, you
to
can.
that.
Speaking
but-
to the couple of earlier questions that were brought up, should we mention the Easthampton media support in this, or is it too early for that?
I think it's too early. I'm like,
I just said.
I think it could be a really great thing, but
Right.
like, there's probably some legal questions that we need to make sure about, like,
So let's keep.
Really tying our cart.
are we allowed to do that?
Right.
That's the big question.
That might be construed as making a promise, which.
Yeah, I'd be worried about
Right. Strike the-
I want,
Yeah.
like, I'll say it straight up, like, I would like to do that. Like, I think it would be the right thing to do for our local democracy. But like, does an MLP have the ability under Massachusetts general law to assess a fee to fund your local
I think this-
cable access? I don't know. So I'm nervous about like tipping my hand too much on that before I get a sense of like, is that actually a thing that's okay to do? Which might be an interesting thing to research in the next.
yes. I mean, the other option we would have is Easthampton Media could put their online streaming behind a paywall. So
Yeah.
if you're a cable subscriber, you get it automatically because we're getting money through the cable. If you're not, if you cut the cord and don't have charter, then you have to pay to
I just like that way less, but you know.
Well, I
Right,
know,
we'll
yeah.
have to figure something out. So let's talk about that at the next meeting.
Okay.
If you want to do some research into what our options would be,
I will reach out to the Mass Access Group, which is
Yeah.
all the PEG stations.
that would be awesome. One last not super important thing. I got some kind of interesting news, which is so Thursday is going to be the mayor's State of the City address, and she mentioned that she was going to be mentioning us and this initiative as like one of the things she's excited about.
So more attention could be coming.
Just
It's a good time.
if you end up going to that or watching it, don't be surprised if we get mentioned. I mean,
Where is she giving that? Is it upstairs?
upstairs. I mean, yeah, or at least the draft that she was discussing with me, that we were part of
This
it.
is on Thursday?
Yeah.
Do you want, when you put this before the city council and present the memo, do you want us to show up at that too? I don't think it would
You
hurt.
should, if anyone who can and would like to, should feel free. I think that, yeah, it'll probably be, like probably one person, that being Greg as chair, will go up and
Right.
present, but if other people just want to be there to show support.
Moral support would be good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Don't puke on their shoes.
All right, yeah. Well, you would have to, that would be impressive because our feet are under the bench. So that would be like,
I'll be the guy at
So
the
it'd be a
back, I'll be the guy at the
power
back with the tomato stand.
One other thing, if we do this survey, it will require a little bit of like web design and probably like identity stuff. Probably need like some kind of logo type thing, name treatment.
You want it,
I'll be happy to help with it, work on it.
Seconded.
But
Nominating yourself is always good around here.
I would just use the City of Easthampton, said the
Yeah.
Telecommunications Advisory Committee.
Make it a
So-
slick logo, something with like riding jaguars.
But there's also maybe
Dragons are hot right now.
like,
Dragons are pretty good.
is there somebody I can talk to about accessibility stuff?
I've done that and I've done websites, so, you know.
Okay.
Accessibility concerns with public surveys on the internet, like
Right.
Watch out for the green-blue shift.
yeah, color blind, right? But you know, those kinds of issues.
Yeah, I'm out of my depth on
Yeah,
that.
lot
I
of
don't
that
know if there's
stuff is
somebody in the
ingrained
city
now.
who thinks about that stuff. I mean, there's
The city in
well,
general,
there's what's her name? Who does the website? She's the woman on Main Street.
again,
Web
Janelle.
tactics.
that was,
Janelle.
Web tactics.
Janelle Jordan.
that was kind of a one-off, I think, though, you know, so.
She's a good person.
No.
I know her pretty well.
Okay.
But I mean, if you're going to be putting this out over SurveyMonkey, you can have limited ability
Yeah.
to modify it.
Right.
Which might be fine, honestly.
Which might be fine. Because they're probably taking care of all the
Most of the
accessibility
handicap and
concerns.
accessibility
Right.
issues are addressed in the browsers and whatnot. I mean, a lot of it's embedded now. So,
Should we make it available in second language?
I mean, again, I don't know if I depend on Google translations to get that across. That's a good question, you know, because we do.
The school changed it this year. We just did a flyer for soccer, and
Right.
they require a Spanish translation, a Spanish version of the flyer
That's a
now.
good point.
I'm sure Omar.
But I don't know that there's.
I know.
There may be some tools in SurveyMonkey too for that.
Yeah.
They might be able to have a
That would be
translate
great.
function.
All right.
It's not particularly difficult language.
Yeah,
But
we know
it
plenty of
could be-
Spanish speakers.
yeah,
We can figure it
yeah,
out.
okay.
Well, let's make sure we have the content right, and then if we need
Right.
to, between us, we know plenty
I'll
of
look into
Spanish
that,
speakers
too.
that could probably,
Yeah.
maybe Joe could help out.
No. Como se llama? No, he's a little better than that, but
Yeah, that's cool though. Anything else?
Follow up on the next steps. Tom is going to type up the revised memo
And track people down for signatures.
and track us down for signatures. And we got to do signatures before we leave and contact information.
Well, actually you send it to, oh, that's right, yeah. I'll run upstairs and see if that form is still in the
Okay.
Yeah, we
mailbox.
can put those in, yeah.
Okay.
We're in for a few minutes.
We've got me doing a pre-email to the council with links and relevant facts. We've got, who's going to take a look at MassWorks grant?
Well, we've already looked at them. You were mentioning, I mean, you're the one who brought.
Yeah, I'll keep
Yeah.
poking around in that. I don't see that as like something we need to figure out for the next meeting. But
Okay.
like,
Yep.
I'll see if I can figure out someone in the state that I can call to just ask, like, is this the sort of thing that you would fund?
Right.
And then maybe I'll sort of run it by the mayor and say, like, is this something that you would ever be willing to consider? Because, like, you know, it would be competing with
Right.
sidewalks and stuff. So it's, but you never know. Maybe the potential return on investment is attractive. So yeah, I'll have that conversation.
Excellent. Jason is going to make the survey available to us additionally. We'll be working on that and getting it for the next meeting. I'm going to reach out to Mo. We're going to set up a business meeting so we can get a business version of that done. I'm going to reach out to HG&E and GCNet,
Yeah.
GSET,
For some-
to schedule possible visits, if possibly on weekends and other times. The FCC and public access is on the next agenda, and I think that's it.
Great.
Greg's got it.
All right. motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Passed.
You have to say all in favor.
All in favor?